can edit whatever we want to have edited.
All right.
So it's literally just like, it should just be a screen literally of like both of us side by side. We both have about the same
Well, I want yours to be a
framing.
little bit bigger, but because the point of the conversation is to bolster your credibility. And for
it will be, but
to understand what it is that you've accomplished over the course of your career.
Okay.
To give them an understanding of
Sure.
who Adam Herrick is and the well-rounded knowledge I think that you bring to the table.
Right.
It really isn't as much about me. I mean, we can segue into that if you want to once we start getting into the people pillars.
Okay.
But I think the best thing to do would be to stop smoking a cigarette and get started.
Well, let's get started. We're gonna get started. We're gonna get started while I'm smoking a cigarette.
All right. Well, that's just your natural personality then. So maybe that'll come across as, genuine. This is Adam Herrick.
This is what you get.
This is what you get.
This is what you fucking get.
You're gonna get Coca-Cola and
that's a glass of fucking. This is Sarloos. This is Sarloos and Sons wine right here.
Oh, okay. Solid.
It's a brand I'm going after.
All right.
So I'm actually promoting them. I'm influence marketing for them.
All right. So I want to get started talking about your background.
Yeah.
I want people to understand how well-rounded your experience has been.
Sure.
In the e-commerce space.
Yeah.
And I know that's a broad subject.
Yeah.
Why don't we get started with, where it all began in terms of your career?
I love that. I think that's hilarious because like a lot of the things I've figured out about myself and a lot of things I've figured out about the industry and the keys, which I know you're going to talk about, technically you think that I was a part of the initial group of people that pioneered e-commerce. And you're right.
I do want to get into that.
And you're right. Because when I was young.
Let's talk about a timeline. How about we do that? Let's talk about a timeline.
Let's talk about 2001.
All right.
Let's talk about 2001. I am an idiot pastor, a child. I'm 20, 21 years old. As a pastor, and I made a decision with a group of the guys at the church. No reason. There were a couple women. So I say guys, I really mean the team of people. There were a group of musicians and artists and visual creators. And we basically were running a media agency inside of a church as volunteers. Some of us were pastors. Most of us were volunteers. And one afternoon, we kind of just did this typical thing where we did like this family dinner at my house, and I made dinner and everybody would come around and we'd sit and just kind of, relax. Cause most of our week was really around kids and work and creation, right? Creating things. And, a
little bit more of a free spirit at that time, I'm assuming.
Same fucking person. I'm the same kid today. I'm more that kid now today than when I was grinding it out for other CEOs. Yeah.
What did you think that you could accomplish with digital media back in 2001?
We didn't even think about that. What we thought of was we're really fucking good at doing these things. We're great at producing videos. We're great at writing content. We are great at making websites. We're great at building apps. We're great at building applications and software. And we're phenomenal at, DVD encoding and editing and light design and audio design and concert production and event coordination. We just did all these things. And we were like, we should offer this to people and see if they want to pay us money. And because of the area, we were in the Palm Beaches, right? So we were in a very affluent, highly intelligent, educated body of communities in all the different cities that we kind of were living in. The church was in one particular city in the Treasure Coast of Florida, so just above the Palm Beaches. And so you're talking massive levels of affluence. And so, of course, in the church, the community side of that, we had opportunities to business owners everywhere. So when we finally said that we had an agency, it was like, boom, everybody within the church immediately was like, build us a website, help us with our marketing. How do we get ranked on Google? Like, how do we sell our products? How do we sell our services on a website? Like, we've heard of this Amazon thing. We've been buying stuff online. How weird is that? We'd like to be able to do that. We go to speak at these conferences and we're sick of PowerPoint. We would like to have like something that's more integrated in a video that kind of goes along with our presentation. And so we just started. We just did it. We just put we literally, one of our partners, and still is currently today, is a yacht designer. That's his, like, my partner, our business partner was a yacht designer. Like, who has access to those resources? And so they had an office space in the building that they owned, which was on the water. So my startup media company, right? And I was driving to a waterfront underneath a bridge in the intercoastal, right? And that was my office at my startup business, right? Which is just crazy how the universe will just do those things and open them up for you. So we're a bunch of dumb kids driving into this interior office. It's a dark interior room, just perfect for us because we're edgy entertainers, creators, right? We love being in the studio. And it just was like a couple days of confusion and then a whole bunch of days of just grinding out work for our people. And I think even back then, the same things, the same principles still resonate and are true. Ask the right questions to your client. Find out who their audience is. And a lot of times they don't know. So then go do the research and figure out who their audience actually is and tailor the experience that you're building around that audience, because that audience has a goal. That
back in 2001,
yeah.
What tools were available to be able to gather that kind of data, that kind of customer information? How have the tools evolved over time?
Well, the tools have evolved in access, in speed of access, Jesus, we're going to probably talk about things like Jasper and Chat GTP today. GPT, GTP, just probably in like the next week, we're going to just start referring to it as chat. And everybody's going to know that means AI chat, which is not chat, which is an AI content creation and generation tool. That's 22 years in the making. Basically, it's so the thought leadership behind arriving and reverse engineering the end goal, right? Because the end goal period is a delighted customer. I'm going to steal from Bezos because at the end of the day, Amazon's been doing it right for so long. I don't think there's a better definition or phrasing yet beyond Bezos, right? So if the end goal is a delighted customer, you reverse everything. You reverse engineer everything from there. The theologies behind it are the basic core principles. If you studied it against like theology and religion or scientific principles, right? It's no different of an evolution. The concepts that worked and were available back then, we've just refined those tools. So back then,
refined those tools.
I mean, countless thousands of technical geniuses and marketing geniuses.
You're talking about from Google?
I mean, those are players, right? Those are people who dedicated budgets and dedicated investments to resources and teams to go and solve this in a better way. Solve it in a more readily available way. Solve it in a less data siloed way. Solve it in a more speed to access way. So let's really zero in on the core principles. The core principles back then, which are the same today, was understand the end goal. The end goal is a delighted customer. So that customer and us, our job, our client is not the customer. So let's make sure that when we're talking about agencies and we're talking about creators and we're talking about digital strategy, we are the delivery team, right? The client is the person or the company or the teams that are coming to us to help solution. And the customer is that person at the end of the journey, at the end of the story that has successfully completed a goal. And as long as we understand that it's a goal that lots of customers have, right? We're not manufacturing a goal for them. We're not manufacturing a goal of, let's say, a healthier diet. This is something that anyone can relate to, right? That's a goal. People have it, people don't. But those people that do have that goal, 20 years ago, basically, it was about getting information in front of that customer that gave them access to feelings of completion of the goal, of understanding or being able to access a healthier diet. Plain and simple. It's not complicated. How that's evolved over 20 some, almost 30 years is not any different than it did in traditional advertising, in print advertising, in radio advertising, in television advertising. We just started segmenting, getting more direct, getting more concise. You know, commercials used to be seconds long, then they became really long, then they compacted back into becoming, you know, what we typically are used to is you got a 15-second spot, you got a 30-second spot, you got maybe an elongated 2-minute spot that you use in a really targeted area, like in streaming today, right? 2-minute. I've seen, holy shit, on my kids, like free shit that they watch on YouTube, right? Like whatever the cartoons are. So if I'm not paying attention for a minute, I've come back and there's been commercials on YouTube shows that are literally like 14-minute long episodes. It's a show. It's a damn show trying to sabotage and hijack my kid's show. Okay, so that's a very granular example, but all these.
That's a good example. So, so basically, what you're saying is that they had to cast a much wider net back then than they do now.
We had far less tools and access to tools, so we had to create those tools. And I can remember doing research, and the internet was clearly a thing, right? I mean, the internet's been a thing since I was 14, 15. I mean, it's been a thing since
about our high school years, right?
Well,
probably like mid-90s.
Readily available.
AIM and the dial-up network and the instant messenger.
So let's define that as like
Internet Explorer. That's really all we had.
The first generation of mass accessible internet connectivity. Because chat boards existed for years and decades prior to that. I mean, there are known government, what is the word we used to actually call them something? And it's funny, a bunch of our viewers are going to be like, duh, Adam, it's this. It was like the intraweb, but like, so networks existed. Networks of data existed in like government agencies and then in like large corporations in the 70s and 80s, you know, because those computers had, I mean, especially in Wall Street. So what it really is, the AOL generation, our teenage years, right, is the first time that there was a reliable and an enjoyable user experience that was laid out in front of the actual back end of the connectivity. So it was the first generation of really being able to have mass access, right, to that type of internet experience. So when I say that is, there was researchable internet databases at that time. So to understand, say, a customer that my client has that wants to have a better healthy diet, right? Understanding that customer means like we would back then, and it's the same today, but we would back then literally go to the library. We would go to the library. We would get online and we would try to find things that it really wasn't even Google yet. I mean, this was still AOL search, Yahoo search, Bing, Ask Jeeves, Metacrawler.
Forgot about Ask.
Forgot about those, right? So those were things. And so
that was like what, the Wikipedia of today, kind of.
Oh no, well, no, because Wikipedia understands they're lacking, and they've done strides in the last decade to kind of overcome their cheesiness and overcome their lack of, you know, trumpable reliability.
Cheesier than Ask Jeeves.
Jeeves was the absolute,
like the MySpace of the internet back then.
I mean, it was so Jeeves was cool. Jeeves was cool because
it had a lot of answers.
It had a lot of answers, right? And then it became Ask. I'm pretty sure it became Ask.com, and Ask.com had a leg. I mean, they tried. And these things that worked and failed, this is where we really evolved in I think branding. And I think that's a big piece that I think that we understand at Second Team of what works and what doesn't. There's great ideas out there. There's great experiences that offer the same goal to the end customer, right?
We do have an excellent branding team.
And that's the biggest thing, is like understanding your client and understanding if that group of clients, that if you segment those clients into a brandable message, and then you create or you modify or you refine a brand around those targets, those targeted customers specifically. And that mindset, the mentality is, what I'm doing is I'm refining and tuning the brand around the goal being a delighted customer. So you have to know that customer, right? You have to really understand them, and you have to say, how many segments do we have here? How many things equal the personality and the persona of this customer? And in those things, is that a large enough market segment to make business sense for us. These are the really down and dirty details that really make the difference between like how successful are your marketing campaigns and how successful is your targeted advertising going to actually be. And I don't mean successful by like, it's a myriad of combinations. And this is where we get into analytics. And this is where we get into understanding actual KPIs and KPI goals and how do you set them, right? It's all reverse engineering. All you ever have to do, the best thing that anyone's ever going to get from me is if you start with an end goal of a delighted customer and you reverse engineer everything from there, you will be 10 times more successful in your execution today than you were not thinking that way. What 99% of the people that I work with do is they go, I have a brilliant fucking idea. I've got the thing. I've got the winning idea. I've got the widget. I've got the service. I've got the solution. And I'm going to force feed it out into the world. And what they don't realize is how much money they are giving back to the rest of the world via ad spend. So they're fattening Meta's.
Give me an example. Give me an example of customers and clients or businesses that you've worked with that had a really great concept.
Absolutely.
Product,
100%.
Bloated expense and ultimately ended up failing, not because of their idea or the quality, but because of their execution. Give me an example of
I can give you two, and I can go nearly global company, and then I can take you down to a startup, right?
All right, let's go with global.
Let's do the parallels, right?
Let's give our audience a snack.
So I specifically consulted for digital strategy for a company called Highlifter, which is a legacy company, legacy brand in the power sports space.
Okay.
Brilliant brothers, brilliant team, second generation. They started the business with their dad. And basically the beautiful, fun thing about ATVs in the 80s, 90s was getting them a little taller so that you could get over more obstacles. So you could go deeper into the experience that you were having out in the terrain on your ATV, right? So they had built this massively celebrated brand. I went to them already knowing who they were, knowing that I was walking into a winner, right? And they had just come up with an idea of basically a product that allowed power to be directly applied to the wheels as opposed to taking and relying on the power exactly from the motor in order to make the axles have better friction. So this was independent four-wheel drive, direct power applied to the wheel as opposed to being reliant on the entire power system. And you and I know this because of our time in automotive. Right? So I wouldn't be surprised if, well, technically what we see in so the reason that trucks are about to become super badass in the electric space, in the EV space, is because that's exactly what they're able to do. They have 4 independent motors that can apply completely intelligent torque and lack of torque and braking and resistive power and regenerative power at each individual wheel.
I think Tesla is using that on
Tesla's already using it on the semis.
Their heavy cargo trucks,
on the semis. Yep, absolutely. Yep. Right.
I saw that.
So brilliant product.
Not right now. Okay, brilliant product. Okay.
So brilliant product. So when I came in, I also knew in our backyard, because they did this on purpose, right? Our biggest competitor moved into our backyard. Simultaneously, 2 or 3, but one in particular, startup companies matching the exact same business model, right? We are an ATV, lift kit specific accessories manufacturer, right? And our biggest competitor moved into our backyard. And I was being given directive and initiative of what to do and where to go in order to increase and grow sales, because we were thinking about growing sales.
Okay. What were the sales at that point, do you think, if you recall?
I want to say that I want to say that the company was doing around 2.5 million in revenue. But I also think it's very possible that it was actually like 12.9. My brain will do that sometimes. Just the fractional component. It's been so long. I think my goals, I think my particular department's goals were like to create somewhere around like 2.5 million in new business per year.
Okay, that makes sense. Right.
My point in all this is that very successful, very, very, very comfortable and successful company, growing every year, spending money on R&D, spending money on advertising, in-house marketing team, talented team, knew what they were doing, great leadership in that position. But we were being told where to go, not being asked to understand what the challenges were actually in front of us.
Okay.
Right. And so I could see it crystal clear. Like we are being threatened on market share. And that is a very clear threat. This company absolutely wants to dispose of our market share. And they are willing to throw money at a massive loss. Right. Hello. Right. This is Kia versus Toyota.
Right.
Right. When Toyota gets grumpy and stubborn, Toyota loses. And all of a sudden, Kia, which should have gone out of business along with its sister company, Hyundai, are one of the global leaders. They've taken over in the last 2 generations because of reliability. They reverse engineered. Kia and Hyundai knew, right, in the very late 90s, definitely within the 10-year decade of the 2000s, they knew our cars are ugly, our design is shit, but we're being savvy with our money because we know that we can disrupt and become significant against the Corolla, oh my God,
Camry.
No, what's Honda's?
Civic. Sonata.
The Civic.
Honda Civic.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Civic, Chevy has never been able to keep over a decade a reliable compact name. They've gone with the Cruze, they've gone with the Volt, they've gone with the Sharp, they've got whatever, right? I mean, it's like you can't even remember the names. Ford, it used to be whatever was lower than the Taurus. Ford's the same problem. There's the same problem. They can't stick to a brand. Hyundai was like, we're going to beat the name Sonata and Elantra into everybody's brain. Kia was like, we're going to beat our brands, Sereno, whatever we all know.
So what was your suggestion?
So I was like, here's
what you were being fed by.
There are micro brands. There are micro brands that are building branding and messaging that is taking another segment of our client away from us. It's a smaller brand, but we already can't afford to lose the client base that Super ATV is taking from us. We've got these smaller micro brands coming in that are all driven off of influencing. They're all driven off of powerful branding, telling a compelling story, and giving that user who wants the highly customized feeling. Mind you, at the same time, Highlifter and still had their own edition in partnership at Polaris, right? You could literally go to a Polaris dealership and buy a Highlifter edition. You don't even have to bother with buying the parts and installing them. You can just go buy a Highlifter edition ATV. Super ATV didn't have that partnership yet, right? But there's customers in this space now where they have deep pockets of spend, deep interest in spend, but they want unique. It's like a Jeep buyer. It's like a lift kit, lifted off-road Toyota buyers. I'm an FJ, owner, and I have a very personalized FJ. I want hyper personalized, high quality, right? And I could see that there's this whole segment. And if you let this third player, just think about it, this is the whole reason why nobody wants there to be more than a left and a right. And we don't even call it Democrats and Republicans anymore. We just call it left and right, because God forbid there be a third choice and we're not all pitted against each other directly. And if you let that third choice brand come in and dig roots, and now they become anywhere near as significant, Highlifter now becomes a quiet brand. They become a Pontiac. And
why so? Why is there not enough room for 3?
It's not that there's not enough room for 3. It's that these guys are doing it with a level of aggression and intensity. These guys are doing it with a level of aggression and intensity. You've allowed it to happen. See, it's already happened because you're taking off the brakes. It's already happened. you're not keeping your finger on the pulse of your actual customer base, right? You're concerned about the mass. You're not concerned about segmenting the mass and breaking them down into which targets are at risk. These targets are not at risk. These targets are great. Let's just keep them happy and satisfied, right? These targets are at risk. What are we doing? I mean, McDonald's literally just brought back the bagel breakfast. They do what they do on the ribs because of specific data science, specific numbers around the cost to provide it versus the cost to not provide it. Taco Bell lost enough money on not having the Mexican pizza that they brought it back. They figured out a way to bring it back. Right?
Do you think that's a common trend?
I think that
people get tunnel vision. Business owners get
tunnel
God!
Business owners at corporate.
Is it tunnel vision, or is their vision too wide? Do they get too greedy? No.
At the big levels, it's laziness and bloat. At the highest levels, when you're pretty much over 200 employees, right?
What companies have you worked for that have over 200 employees that you've seen where they get in their own way with excess?
Every single person, everybody, every single company over 200. Peak Activity, agency I just recently was a top consultant for. Overstock.com, fucking Jesus. I mean, let me tell you, for every kid that's out there that's aspiring, this is, by the way, Sean, something we need to talk about. This is one of the main reasons why our companies, our clients, are having such a difficulty in being able to solve for digital strategy. The young talent, I want them to listen right now. Young talent out there who you think that what you want to do is go climb the ladder at Meta, and you want to go climb the ladder at Facebook, and you want to go climb the ladder at Google and wherever else it is, right? That doesn't matter. I'm not talking about technical giants. I'm talking about finance giants. I'm talking about any corporation. Any of you out there that are listening to this, you are emerging in your career, you're in your early stages, and you think that the winning is obtaining a $500,000 a year income, all the benefits, all the perks, the 5 to 8 months or 5 to 8 weeks of paid vacation, the paid travel, all the expenses, the pictures that you can fucking put on Instagram of look at my fancy life. Obtaining a title that's impressive, justifying your college debt, all those things. The second that you get into corporate bureaucracy is when your heart is going to break, and you're going to realize that you are choosing a sad destiny. If your heart breaks that way, you're an entrepreneur. Get the fuck out and go start a business. Don't spend the next 15, 25, 30 years of your life sweating that out. If you get exhilarated and corporate bureaucracy and politics just absolutely make your dick tingle, then go do it. Stay in it. It's for you, right? And you guys can keep fighting it out because the rest of us are going to win. And the rest of us are going to actually, because you don't need to beat Fortune 500 companies. You just need to implement their strategies. And the reason that you don't have access to those strategies is because all the top talent are chasing that pipe dream. They're not starting affordable businesses that give small businesses access to those resources and those trades and those trade secrets and those tips and tricks.
Well, they deliberately absorb all that talent.
That's right. And they keep it away from everybody else.
The minute that you become successful and visible,
that's right.
You become a target.
That's absolutely right. So if you're selling a widget or you're selling a service, you don't have to go compete, right? Highlifter didn't have to compete with Highlifter. In fact, the company that ended up being that third in the triad that is now more talked about and more looked at and more discussed than Highlifter sold. They sold their business a year after I left them. They sold the business, right? And that should tell you something. And what happens? Now it's just Highlifter is basically a thing of the past. It's a memory.
So within 12 months, they basically became insolvent and needed to sell simply because they weren't able to resist.
They weren't willing to pivot. They weren't willing to pivot. They weren't willing to go. They weren't willing to take a division and go off and be guerrilla. They needed to have a special black ops division that was just guerrilla.
And just dive into that a little bit so viewers can understand what is guerrilla marketing. Because I think
so the team that was
topic.
The team that was keeping the major buyer, the major Highlifter customer happy, they were doing their job. They were doing their job right. They were doing their job effectively. They kicked ass at their job. They still kick ass at their job. They are completely effective as a team. When we identified that there were these micro brands that were coming up and attacking us, we should have carved off a Black Ops Special Forces team, a Tiger team, that specifically drilled in and understood why those customers are not resonating. Those personas are not resonating with Highlifter's brand anymore. What do we need to do? And I could have said it 5 seconds into just they want specialized. They want small, like special edition, small run, highly like hand produced, right? Like high quality, highest quality materials, super effective, very customizable, very unique. And that would have, Highlifter probably wasn't in the position at that time to even be able to answer the R&D demands that would have been a part of that. So we would have attacked it through marketing. We would have attacked it through, what can we white label? What can we go and off source? What can we get another manufacturer to build for us under our specs that are going to resonate with these, with these clients? It would have also meant partnering with better, more aligned influencers, right? And doing collaborations with them and doing co-op designs with them. These are simple things. Simple to me. It's not simple for everybody to grasp these. And I think that's one thing we do want to understand. Not everybody is ever going to be me. Not everyone's going to have my brain. And that's why I've made myself and why we as a company have made ourselves available, because that's just the end. At the end of the day, I have friends that are interior designers, and I have friends that are artists, and I have friends that are musicians. Fuck, man, I'll never be able to do what they do. But if I have an application that needs an incredible interior design, I know I'm going to go get Janelle Burns. I know if I need a piece of music composed, right? If I have a specific drum piece and complexity that needs to be, I'm going to go get Zach Mitchell to play drums on that problem.
Well, e-commerce in itself is an art. It is
an art. Fuck yeah. It still is embedded in there is an art in the science of data. There is an art in understanding that. There's an art in engineering it. There is an art in everything that has to do with web development, especially in the architecture side of it. Understanding SEO and SEM absolutely is an art. It takes innate talent that is disciplined over time to become an expert in.
Well, I think one of the advantages that you have is that you were in the automotive space. We were
pioneers, fucking legends. Pioneers.
I think the bigger point is that industry in particular, I think, has a very negative connotation, but people don't realize
100%.
It is the second largest purchase someone makes, and ever. It's done at a high volume at the stores that we worked at.
That's right.
So
that's right.
High pressure, high volume.
Yeah.
We also
high level of objections to overcome. High level of objections to overcome.
Yes, and we were subjected to a very resistant industry that didn't like a whole lot of change
internally. They didn't want to.
Forced to get more involved with the customer than I think that we probably even should have been. But in retrospect, it gave us insight and instinct on how to persuade and how to mass communicate as well as we do.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we were so intimate with our customer.
I
don't see that a whole lot. I'm more in real estate now, so I haven't been working with e-commerce brands for the last few years as much as you have. So I don't know if that has completely changed, where they try to keep those separate from sales and e-commerce. But at that time, back in mid-2010s,
oh man,
we really were in front of our customer, and we got ridden to death, but we were in front of our customer as well as on the back end in developing the web strategy. So I think we got a lot of insight that most of our competitive agencies don't have. We worked directly with we talked with those customers. We dived into CRM tools, hundreds, thousands of calls a day, a week.
Yeah.
And that's unique to the automotive industry.
So here's a flip in the parallel to that, right? What we did was revolutionize, and now it's a standard in the automotive space that you're going to have a relationship. That car is already bought. right? You have a relationship already built with that customer.
What was the phrase back when we got started, and back in the early 2010s, 13, 14? You will never sell a car online.
You'll never sell a car online.
And that was universal.
That was,
and, I mean, in the
every dealer, every general manager.
Viewers can understand we weren't some mom and pop dealership on the side of Route 40.
No,
we were
number one Toyota in Maryland.
number
3 Honda.
Took down CarMax, number 1 in the state.
Yep.
I mean, big.
Yeah, it took down CarMax and then got asked to go be their interim e-commerce director for the entire region, right? So, I mean,
CarMax Alaro, they were one of the biggest in Maryland.
Killed them.
What? Dark Cars.
AutoNation. AutoNation brings me on. I kicked their ass, and AutoNation brings me on.
Who was a nothing before we got there.
They were a social media disaster.
Well, they were riding. Literally, they had their owner riding horses in his parking lot when I got there.
Yeah,
that was their sales pitch.
When I got there before I hired you there, Antwerpen had just committed a $4 million spend to change over to a new model style of the buildings, right? And their CSI scores and their reviews, their social reviews, were so bad. They had already put the $4 million out of like a $25 total $1 million commitment. They'd already put the $4 million out, and they were on a 14-month course to losing their franchise.
Well, they also had their owner was selling Hyundai and Honda products out of Toyota
the Toyota dealership,
the manufacturer's back.
Yeah,
I remember that. To this day, I have no idea what that was intended to accomplish. Well, actually,
but the thing is,
the owner wasn't allowed to step foot in the Toyota dealership,
right?
Because of all the shiesty shit that he was pulling at his other. So
the Kia store lost the franchise license.
Did they?
The Kia store lost the franchise license. And people that don't understand that, go just do a quick Google search on like how it works. Like, you and I can make all the money in the world. We'll never be able to own our own franchise. Our kids, our grandkids can get in line, right? That is a generational men's club, women's club, elitist club of ownership, which is fine because we have so many owners that we love and respect. And
those 3 are the biggest that I know.
Like my personal business mentor is a second generation. His dealership is now in their 3rd generation. His boys are currently running that dealership, right? So it's not like we have negative relationships in the space. We have very healthy relationships in the space. It's just that we know it and we own it and we've been there, right? And what I was saying that was kind of
for our viewers to understand just 1 second is, we were e-commerce director at one of their franchise stores, but constantly being summoned to come to their headquarters in Virginia.
Always.
To use the same strategies that were implemented, not only across all of their franchises, but I noticed this when we were working at King, is I was constantly summoned to talk with their regional reps. I noticed that we were basically the strategies that we were implementing, they were used, and I told Aschenbach about this, which is why I wanted to stop having meetings with
stop giving him your ideas. Stop giving him your ideas.
They're literally giving all the work that we're doing to try to create the competitive advantage.
Yeah,
that's right. Giving that info over to the reps and working with, and that's the problem with co-op dollars. Is when you work with the third parties.
Why do you think they do it? Why are they willing to give you the money? Because you're boots on the ground.
Strategies, and they use it across all of their stores.
Which is so this ties back into, why can you as a small business owner, why can you not hire the right talent? You can't hire the right talent because that talent is selling all their best ideas. They're trading their best ideas and proving that in a conglomeration model for a big company, a Walmart, a big .com.
How do dealerships really can they?
I'm talking about everybody. Right. I'm talking about dealerships. I'm talking about small businesses, mom and pops, family owned, partner owned. Right. Like,
well, there's a much different strategy that small and medium sized businesses are going to use than what we were using.
But they're not. And you asked the question. And I was saying, there's the thing that what we did in the automotive industry was we actually created a paradigm shift. right? Because now it's the standard in automotive to have a relationship, to be engaged. You have all the full transparency of the numbers and the data in front of you. It's just a matter of choosing where do you want, which car brand do you want, which model do you want, what price is acceptable, you know, what else do you bring to the table, and what dealership, ultimately, where do you want to life cycle your vehicle, right? We changed all of that in regular commerce, right? In regular commerce, we've actually migrated away from what you and I and thousands of the rest of the thought leaders in that space that we all did together. There is a gap in traditional modern e-commerce. There is a gap. You think that you are connected to the brand via social media. You feel like you have a relationship with them until you buy something from them. And once you've bought from them,
explain.
Yeah, I will explain. So what we did in automotive was we isolated and separated ourselves and differentiated ourselves from our competitors by
Personal experience.
personal journey. You are not buying a Honda from Antwerpen. You're buying a shopping experience with Adam Herrick.
Right.
You're buying
you're buying
a researching and shopping experience with Sean Rosansky.
One of the this is a good point. One of the things that I did early on was dealerships, most businesses, I assume, their biggest days, I know in automotive it is, and you deal with a lot of other e-commerce brands, their biggest days are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Of course, and a holiday.
So all of the activity, most of the activity that you get, most of the leads that are generated are on Wednesday, Thursday night.
Yes.
So what I would do is I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yep.
And everyone's got template emails, and people love them to death.
And they're getting better and better now. We have
response time was all the wave then. You had to make sure that you responded within a certain amount of time, or they would literally take
the lead.
Advertise. No, they would take away advertising dollars from you if you didn't have a certain response time. That and CSI were the two biggest important things.
Two biggest important things.
So I had to do the response time. That was one thing, but it wasn't as important as I personalized each individual lead that we got.
You did.
At 4:30 in the morning on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yes, you did.
So that when they got up at 7:30 in the morning, what's a customer going to do? They're looking through their emails.
That's right.
They're most likely going to consider visiting a dealership or at least contacting them.
That's right.
And they're looking through their emails, and there's going to be 10 of them.
Yeah.
Because you're not the only business that they
per brand.
Right. None of the other dealerships were smart enough to realize that you had a easy opportunity to steal
short window to close it up fast
simply by putting something simple, looking at their Facebook page and saying, oh, I realized that you just had a birthday, or I realized that your kid's turning 16, or anything because people reading leads is a science in itself if you know how to do it. Being able to create just a little personal feel to that email would create so much momentum.
I remember when you would
probably the biggest strategy implementer that I had.
I remember you would literally go and look at your clients on their social media.
I still do that
to this day,
especially with real estate.
Still do it to this day.
Yes, I still do it. I hire people based. I didn't care about your resume at all. You could have came from Harvard. You got no idea what you're getting yourself into when you step into Koons or into Criswell or when you step into Antwerpen. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into.
You don't.
But I didn't care about anything else. All I did was look at your social media.
That's it.
Because I can tell everything about you.
That's it.
Because I've looked at millions of profiles. I've studied hundreds of thousands of leads. So I get a lead. I can read a lead better than anybody else I know.
You can. And you know them. And that's how you end up getting that differentiator, right? And that's a big part of what we're talking about. And you asked about timeline. And I think it's interesting because you just kind of set up a really interesting, the second wave of my timeline. The second wave of my timeline after several years of like taking everything I did with Meltdown Productions, with my media company, and doing some offshoot ventures and learning entrepreneurs, and which was a great experience. Like I recommend anyone in their entrepreneur mindset, take your 20s and go experiment. Like just try a bunch of businesses, right? You're going to make enough money to pay your bills. It's going to be a struggle. You're going to fail. You need that. You need that failure. You need that failureship.
Right.
right? To build the confidence that it's okay to fail. It's okay.
There's a lot of
okay to make it, right?
People,
solely okay.
All these,
no,
because there's younger. You got your Kim Kardashians or your Kylie Jenners, and you got your Mark Zuckerberg. So people get confused that everybody's going to hit it with their first.
No, go fail. Go trash like 5 businesses. Get bad reviews on Google. Have people not like you. That's important. You have to get through that. You've got to get to that piece where you're detached from it and you understand that, like, I don't need anyone to like me other than me and my people.
You got to feel that disappointment too.
You got to feel that disappointment.
Really do.
You have to.
You feel that disappointment. If you disappoint a customer and you don't feel it,
that's it.
You're not an entrepreneur.
And the other piece of that is you have to learn what it feels like to fire or lose your first employee. They count on you. They're counting on you for their income. They depend on you, and you have to experience that.
It's hard.
And that's a tough one. That's one of the tough ones. So it's interesting. So I went through that whole journey, and then I was like, what am I going to do now? And a bunch of friends had told me to get into the car business. And so I did. And I was terrible. I was a terrible car salesman. Big surprise. I don't think anybody that knows me would be surprised that I was a terrible car salesman. But I'm a fantastic solutionist, right? And a brilliant strategist. And I am key at taking advantage of the tools and resources that are afforded me, right? I've been a fool with them at times, but that's part of that whole failure.
How did you go from being a pastor? Now, the transition from your basically
like, you want to go into that
with your, everybody has their own beliefs and their own social mission.
Yeah.
But from there, in 2001, when did you start in the automotive industry?
Yeah,
or was there a gap in between there?
So there was a 10-year gap. There was a 10-year gap of my 20s of learning how to be an entrepreneur and failing at it, succeeding at it many times and failing at it. In fact, in my failures, when I say I failed, right, I would get tired or bored or lose the vision and mission, and I would either give or sell or stop the business. I had 2 companies actually go under because we couldn't make money. And we also didn't make money because I was bored. I didn't like those companies. I was bored with those companies. They weren't really, I didn't learn until my 40s, several laws of the universe and several laws of attachment theories that I needed to work through before I actually understood, like, what do I love to do? And what am I on mission to do? And that's really, Second Team came out of doing friends favors. It did. It came out of doing friends favors, and then those needs grew, I went out and reached out to the top people I knew in my space that I could probably get to help me along the way with doing those things. And that was you, and that was several of the other people in the team, right? And that's where we've arrived at. So I actually had a girlfriend, and lovely girl, absolutely sweet, brilliant person. And we had like a long distance friendship. I think kids today call it a situationship. So we had this like beautiful friendship and this massive respect for each other. And so I moved to Tucson, Arizona to be in a relationship with her. And I didn't have a job, and I had money stacked up. So I had savings, and I was able to just kind of go do what I wanted to do. And so we were in each other's spaces after being 4 years of never in each other's faces, like limited periods of time where we get to go see each other. All of a sudden now we're like living in the same house together, and it just sucked. It just sucked.
Me and you are the complete opposite. I had to go and do something that I really wasn't. I jumped into a line of work earlier than I wanted to.
Than you wanted to.
I got married and living in Montgomery County near DC. It's a minimum of $5,000 or $6,000 a month.
Crazy expensive to live there.
So I had to jump into the workplace, and then I saved up some money and got to kind of revisit what was important to me and what I wanted to do.
That's right.
And that's when I got into the real estate business with my family.
Yeah.
Because I realized I went years without seeing my family when they moved to Florida, and that just wasn't.
We go years without seeing our families in the automotive.
Yeah, we did. We definitely. I mean, I didn't go on a honeymoon. I didn't have any of the luxuries that a lot of my other friends wanted to. And then I did that a little bit later.
We gave up a lot. We gave up a lot to learn what we learned in that decade.
Knew at that point, at least I know I did, that there was an opportunity to be able to get in on the ground floor and to learn and really gain a lot of knowledge before it became. I think all of us knew that eventually it was going to become a little bit more standardized.
Yeah.
The experimentation, I think, is what we were afforded because we were given a lot of leeway.
We were
without much experience.
We were.
No one knew really what to do.
No. I had 2 years of experience under my belt before I hired you.
Okay.
2 years. 2 years in automotive.
None of the owners that I worked for, they basically said that you guys speak a different language. I don't know what you're doing. Just get me more business. Just give me more business. This is how much money you have to work with.
That's perfect storm. It was perfect storm.
It was right at that time. There weren't a whole lot of businesses that you could go into an owner's office and say, look, I need $20,000 for this new product.
Yeah.
Never tried it before.
Never tried it.
Never tried it, but we got to do something. And I believe in the merits.
I want to try it. I want to give it a go.
Give it a go. And
they let us play with ungodly amounts of money.
They did, but we're lucky that it worked. We're lucky that our ideas and worked because they certainly didn't have a whole lot of patience for mistakes.
Well, you're right. But what we do is, and this is Gallagher-Proctor method, is take a dream, right? Just dream it like a little kid. Just take a dream like a little kid. And I remember getting on the phone with vendors. You've been on the phone with vendors where you get excited like a little kid. And then what you do is you create a theory from that, right? So you take that dream and you make theories around the dream. And then you go put those theories into practice, the scientific method, right? And you eventually find facts. And now you've gone from a dream to practice theories. Some of those drop off, but you keep the good ones that rise to the top. And you tie them down to the data, and you tie them down to the facts and the evidence. And now what you have is a dream realized with factual evidence. And what that does is empowers you to dream bigger and more.
When somebody told me that you can't sell a car online, and I knew how big the automotive industry was in the specific region that we were in. Yeah. In my opinion, and I've worked in the Northeast and I've worked in the Southeast, you've worked a little bit more out West. So you might be able to contradict me on this.
I think
the Northeast is the most.
Still, I do. I totally agree. I still agree. I totally still agree with you.
8-10 big players within 15-20-mile radius.
Go denser than Northeast. More granular. The most difficult area was where we were, Baltimore Beltway. The DC Baltimore Beltway was the most, and still is probably the most difficult. I follow all the owners and all the groups in pretty much all of North America, and it is still the most thunderous, the most electrifying competition.
Octane,
it's high octane.
It's high octane. I loved it. I got addicted to it. Because when those numbers came out on, what was it, Sunday night or Monday morning is when we got the weekly reports.
Yeah,
about our sales volume in comparison to the other dealership. That was our Super Bowl. That was our NFL Sunday when we would get those weekly reports, and it was
the reset every month.
Nothing would get you more excited.
Nothing got you more pumped.
See you got the store go from number 8 to number 1, but there was. It took some time, and I think that's where the corporate bureaucracy really comes into play. Is that a lot of dealerships who would hire me, they heard about the success that I had, and they wanted results quick. I can give you quick results, but you better be willing to change.
Yes,
you better be willing to change your entire rooftop strategy.
Yeah,
your one store can't be totally independent from your other stores either. And you can't have your finance department eating up all of your gross.
No.
And you can't have your salespeople refusing to use the tools that they have available. You can't have your inventory manager giving you a hard time when you want to do 25, 30, 35 DXs in a weekend.
No.
You can't have your aftermarket manager complaining.
It's a culture change.
Happy with their play plan.
It's culture shifting. It's a culture shift.
To be able to change everything.
Everything.
And that was the hardest part, I think,
of course.
Any dealership I worked for. Coons specifically, Coons put me through
they were entrenched.
6-month hiring process, meeting with everyone that they had in Virginia and all their franchise stores. God knows.
But still completely disconnected.
Talking to me about new products.
Yeah.
That it was an AI chat tool that I wasn't really all that fond of, because regardless of how good AI is,
you're talking
the client knows that you're
10 years ago. Yeah.
The client knows that you're talking. No, this was only about 5 or 6 years ago.
I said 6 to 10. So 5-6 years ago. So even then, like Goobagoo and
this tool wanted
like
over $100,000 to implement for their stores, which doesn't make any sense to me, by the way. But I wasn't really fond of that tool to begin with. But before I got hired, they wanted my decision making on all of these other tools that they were going to implement. Dealerships and businesses pull this shit all the time. They'll hire you, or they'll put you through an interview process just because they want your ideas on a couple of different important decisions.
Yeah.
And then when you actually get to that store, you deal with the finance director and you deal with the GM, and you have all these personalities and strategies clashing.
Yep.
When you hired me to make a decision and execute, you have to be able to tell the other people that are there that if they don't play along and they don't follow that same direction, all you're going to have is this.
And that's not just automotive.
Reverse effect.
That's not just automotive, Sean. That's everywhere. And that goes back into what you're saying. Like, we did change a lot of things that are now standardized across automotive. I actually see it disconnected in the traditional manufacturer of product to consumer, right? So D2C, direct to consumer. I see it in that space all the time now.
Yeah.
Especially at the highest levels. Right?
I think they try to standardize it, but I still don't think that they go.
No.
I still don't think that they've reached that goal. I still don't think
automotive is still disconnected.
Antwerpen was the perfect petri dish. It was a big enough franchise that we were able to really get a good feel for a lot of the strategy that we wanted to implement, and saw a lot of the results based on our strategies.
Yeah.
The other players that we worked for, we could see where what worked at Antwerpen, how we were able to make such strides, we got so much resistance from at other places.
Yep.
That we were able, like King, for example, sold them out of inventory. Literally, they had no more trucks to sell. They went from having cars that had birthdays on their used cars lot to not being able to get used cars and selling them out of new car inventory.
Yeah, absolutely.
But once you did that, I had problems with their manufacturer. I had a lot of problems with GM's regional reps because they were all about their one-click drive promotion.
One-click drive.
$80,000 cars over the internet. And the dealership
who was a part? Who started the whole conversation in the entire automotive industry about let's make it easier to actually.
You liked one-click drive. I didn't like one-click drive, and both of us were wrong.
Who started the conversation?
You did. You were all that was certainly you.
There could not have been more than 100 thought leaders with me at that time that said, let the whole thing. If you can fucking buy shit on Amazon, you should be able to buy a car online.
But the dealerships made no profit off of it. They made no profit because there was no
because they wanted to stay in the same model. They didn't rethink the model. Reverse engineering.
What do you mean by that? Because if they were going to one-click drive, they were completely changing their model.
They were, but the dealerships weren't. The dealerships were being forced to change the model. And the thought leaders at General Motors and the thought leaders at every other dealership that has won, they were way ahead of the time. The only reason they were way ahead of the time is because there is a gap in getting the rest of the culture to line up. You have to rethink pay plans. You have to rethink inventory control. You have to rethink used car buying. You have to rethink finance management. You have to rethink finance products. You have to rethink the whole service department. You have to rethink everything.
No one at the dealership liked one-click drive.
No one liked it because it was forced on them and there was no internal dialogue. General Motors wanted to go there too fast.
Well, there was internal dialogue. It was me sitting in a room with Aschenbach. And let's not be mistaken. Aschenbach is the prince of Montgomery County.
Of course.
They're billionaires. Sure. They own I-200 land and then sold it all. They use their dealerships as a tax write-off. God knows what other businesses that they're
Hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying in this, right? It all is simple shit. I've learned this over 24 years. It's all simple shit. It all comes down to, do you have a defined, crystallized goal? And is that goal surrounded by one simple definition, a delightful experience for the customer? Right? If that goal is a delightful experience for the customer and you reverse engineer everything from there, if it takes you 5 years to be able to execute that perfect goal, then it takes you 5 years.
But here's why we work.
If anyone rams it down, the rest of the corporation, and the more people in that corporation, the harder it is. Especially the more you want to try to force it. Right? You have unstoppable force running into an immovable object.
A delightful customer experience at the right margin of profit.
That's your job to reverse engineer to
and that was my job to reverse engineer. And that's why Second Team, that's why we work. That's why we work so well together. Now, every business that we've worked for has always tried to merge us both together into this unicorn of an employee that doesn't exist. There is not one person, and we've met them all. I mean, you've worked,
and we've worked together, repeated for multiple
We have
times.
worked together, but they ended up wanting to merge our job.
Because why? Because you and I can't work for other people. You and I are not supposed to work for other people.
Yeah,
we were in our journey, and we were going through our process to be able to be the leaders we need to be, so that Second Team can be available for all the companies that we're going to help grow.
I think more so it was because the hierarchy, we came into conflict with GMs who didn't want two of us, because two of us is double the threat.
Didn't want us in the same spot.
They don't want us in the same department. They didn't want us working together.
And I'm telling you,
more control.
Our competition
ended up costing every place that we ended up costing Criswell. It ended up costing Antwerpen. It ended up costing the places that we work together at. I'm just talking about the places that we work together at.
You just highlighted something, Sean. Right? Our clients' competition is not going to be happy that the two of us have a company that grows small businesses.
No, they're going to do everything that they can to stop us from doing that. But we're used to it. We're used to having the immovable object.
Totally detached from it. Don't care anymore.
Literally around us.
Don't care. Going to tell all their dirty secrets. Going to sell all those dirty secrets at an affordable price to all of our clients, because you don't have to beat. Here's what's crazy. We're going to reverse engineer what Walmart did. Walmart came up with a concept. We're going to throw enough money at it long enough. We're going to cheat off the McDonald's model and own real estate and build an entire credible wealth on real estate, right? And we're going to go right next door to all the mom and pops, and we're going to sell all the shit that the mom and pops sell, and we're going to sell it for cheaper. Now, what we're going to do is teach small businesses how to reverse engineer that. How to be able to match Walmart's price, match their customer experience, match their ease of purchase, but give them a delightful experience and give them something they can resonate with and give them a story. What influencers and the Gen Y and below have actually taught us is that people want to be connected to a story. They want to consume in a way that feels good.
You know what a good example of that is? Publix.
Yes,
Publix is a very good example of that.
Grocery stores in general right now are a great example of that.
I got Aldi's down the street.
Nobody's shopping at Walmart.
Aldi's, you can buy, let's just use a head of lettuce.
Yeah.
I like mushrooms. I can go buy a tin of mushrooms. $1.50.
Right.
$1.50. $1.75. I go to Walmart. I go to Publix, and it's $3.95, $4.50. And their stock does nothing but go up. And for the life of me, I can't understand why. I can go to Aldi's and I can spend $80 and get 2 weeks of food. I can go to Publix and I can spend $100 and get 3 days worth of food.
Yeah.
But their stores are still packed and Aldi's is still empty.
Yes.
So what I don't understand, to this day, I don't understand why, because I'm a price point shopper.
I would love, and you don't have to be a price point shopper.
You know the analytics behind it, and what you just said is the reason why. Is because they want the story. They want that customer experience. They love going to Publix because somebody will stand there, and you're not Aldi. You bring your own bags, and you fill. This is your own. What is it? You have to. What is it?
Oh, you bag and scan. Walmart's making us bag and scan. Walmart's making us bag and scan.
Publix. Not only do you, I remember going on. I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas.
I want to do this.
You got to. Not only do you have someone who's bagging your items, you got a sales manager. They're probably paying 6 figures to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Now maybe that's in Windermere. I do have.
No.
I live in a very posh area, so I don't know if that's just.
It's not that.
But if I go to Dr. Phillips,
I would.
Also, they have a Publix where the manager's standing right next to the aisle.
Culture, Sean. Culture. Business model.
And if you go on GoodRx, you can get their prescriptions. For a fraction of the price as CVS and Target, because they're smart enough to know if they get you into your store,
you're going to buy groceries there.
You're going to buy groceries there. So you save them a couple $100 on their. It's nuts. You save a couple $100 here, and they'll spend thousands more shopping groceries.
I would kill to get Michaela Sessa on a podcast with us and talk about HEB. And because HEB represents all the grocery stores that are doing wellness and are doing it's everybody. No, I'm talking specifically to Whole Foods. Whole Foods. You're thinking Whole Foods. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Brookshire's, HEB, Fresh, all across the country, right? There is an entire segment. We could do an hour on just everything that we're talking about, all the Fortune 500 strategies, right, that are making the delightful experience a thing in the grocery world again. Because
do you think that's permanent, or do you think that
nothing is permanent
with inflation, with the rising cost of things, that people are going to be forced out of the pleasant experience forced to go simply for price?
You just asked the most important question, and we're going to take a pause. You just asked the most important question. We're going to take a 5-minute pause, and then we're going to dive into that.
I'm going to take a pause during the most important question.
We're just going to take a pause before the most important question.
No, you can't do that.
I have to.
Do that. Can't leave our audience hanging like that.
Or not, because of the power of editing. We'll be back in 3 seconds. They don't have to watch the whole video. It's not going to be a whole. I did not turn the thermostat down. It is like 80 degrees in here.
You're wearing a jacket.
I got to wear the jacket. I look good.
How do you think it's going so far?
Perfect. What the fuck is wrong with us? Why have we not been doing this? We don't need anybody else. We don't need anybody else.
I told you this.
We don't need anybody else. Anybody else. Like, this shit is so good.
I don't know. I mean, there's only one way to tell if it's good, is whether Pepe is going to be able to edit it. Don't be doing cocaine back there.
That's the other thing is I can edit it. I have all the software to do it. I just would like it if someone else could do it, but I don't have to worry about going to report to peak activity tomorrow. So I can edit this shit tonight, all night.
I'm sure you will.
I can have like 30.
It's a moneymaker.
I'm saying I can have 30 cuts. I can have 30.
You need to talk more about your experience.
Well,
we need to get more of it on here.
Get back away from automotive. Go back to the stuff. Let me talk about the things that.
Well, this is what I mean. This is where my experience is. I have no experience in just selling product online. I am a service salesman.
No, it's good because these are things we can target to our automotive clients. We can go get automotive clients just by these conversations.
Yeah, I know.
So it's perfect. It's very good. But let's take the next hour and like just focus it in on like, this is what Adam's done. This is where he's been. This is how it got there. This is the stuff I've learned from it. Let's do that.
You know us. We'll end up going on a tangent.
Of course we will. I'll be right back.
I got to get my charger.
Is that Adam?
Yeah, and YouTube videos.
Here, I'll keep him company. Hey, Adam.
What's one of your favorite songs right now? Ever heard of Madonna? No, I'm kidding. This song my son introduced me to. Hey, listen to non-stop, day and night, Nightcrawler. White, trippy, red. I can't get it out of my head now. It's constantly in there. Making myself down. Cool question.
Design fails that are so bad it's funny. This bathroom is right next to the living room. The problem is there's no door and the walls are made of glass. A couple rented an Airbnb in Miami, but they were shocked to find the bathroom hid in the scary comments. Next time, they'll just book a hotel.
Let's see. River, come on. Get out here. What's up, Cameron?
Hello.
What'd you do today?
Nothing much.
Nothing much. It's another day in the life of Cameron the Famous.
Yep.
Yeah, you know you're on a recording right now, right? So we're gonna put you on the internet.
Oh, seriously?
What's the most important business rule you've learned so far working with your uncle?
I think I heard my mom call my name actually. Yeah.
All right, see you, buddy.
Yeah, Mom, you need the garbage? Yeah.
Get back here, Cameron. Come answer that question.
Huh?
Say, get back here. Come answer that question.
Yeah.
What's the number one thing you learned about business since you've been working for your uncle and Mike?
The number one rule since I've been listening to you guys.
Yeah. What's the number one thing you've learned?
Maybe treat people like people and humanize your relationships.
That's strong.
Yep.
That's strong, brother. All right. I love it. You heard it from Cameron. 12 years old, future basketball NBA star.
Remember that name.
Future business owner. Current business owner. How's the dog company going? Did you get your first client yet? Come on, you got your first client yet?
No, I don't have
you got to fire your marketing company. Your marketing company sucks.
I don't have a phone number linked. I don't have a phone number. So.
All right. Your uncle and I are going to fix that. We're going to get you your first company, your first client, okay?
Okay.
All right. We'll get it done by next week. We'll get you your first client by next week.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some paper.
Oh, kid. I love you, dude.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're a great kid. You're a great kid. I enjoy getting to hang out with you when I get to. It's so funny.
How long you guys been doing this for?
Video?
Yeah.
We've been on for an hour. We're going to do about another hour.
Nice.
We got some good stuff.
What do you go on? What do you stream on?
Well, we will be on YouTube, and we will post all of these to YouTube, and then we will distribute them out across all the other channels that we're on. So they'll go out on Instagram, they'll go out on LinkedIn, they'll go out on Facebook.
You guys have a YouTube account?
We do.
What's it called?
Probably something to do with Second Team. There's nothing posted on there yet, bud. We haven't done a video yet. The first one. Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing on there yet, buddy.
You guys are pretty big on YouTube.
No, we're not. We don't have any followers on YouTube.
Pretty big. Whopping 0 subscribers.
0 subscribers.
That's more than I've ever had. So. I think I got something interesting stuck in here. You know anything about computers, PCs?
I mean, you've seen mine. You see the one in the background. This is my real one. Hang on. I'll turn off the Oh man, my video's off. My you'll see. I have a little screen in my computer. So that's my main computer right there.
Sheesh. What kind of GPU we got?
So Ryzen 9, and then so that's my other PC back there. So mine is my main computer is a Ryzen 9.
Nice. And
I've got 128 gigs of Corsair RAM. My GPU is a very special GPU. It is a Star Wars Galactic Empire Edition NVIDIA Titan 1080 Ti. And then what else is important? I've got on top of the Ryzen, I've got a Aorus.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks because you couldn't see the video of it. I'll send Sean a video. But I've got my GPU cooler. I mean, my CPU cooler is actually like a liquid CPU cooler.
Nice.
It has a little LCD screen on it that plays.
We might have a new client. Cameron's starting a dog walking business.
I was just saying, we got to get him. We just had it recorded. Like we've got to, dude. I got some gold.
We're trying to get him on YouTube for.
I got some gold. I got gold
videos. He doesn't get it, so I can't. He's a little young. He still doesn't understand.
Sean, this is my podcast.
I got some
I
gold nuggets.
I want him to look at the Cardone kids, Scarlett and Sabrina.
Yeah.
They both now they have massive audiences because of their parents, but they started like a 10X Kids.
Yeah.
I want him to get on that.
He needs to get on that. Let's pay for him to get on that.
I think Sabrina's his age and Scarlett's a couple years younger.
Yeah.
And they have their 10X growth conference. They're literally going on stage.
Yep.
Like you can be 12 years old and make money now. You know, so like he's got tons of people that he follows that are young, making money just by making content. All right, come on.
Well, tell him my quote.
All right, brother. I love you. See you, kid. The next generation, right there.
Yeah, that's another story. That's another story. All right, so where were we? We were at the highlight.
The biggest question.
Important question was.
Most important question.
Is the delighted customer experience going to be a permanent trend? Now, I tend to think that at least in our lifetime it will be, because of the introduction of the metaverse and 3D and virtual reality. I think it's going to even be more so feeling a connection to the brands that you're purchasing from than it even is now. I think it's going to evolve in that direction.
The delighted customer experience. The delighted customer experience is never going anywhere. It never has. It's been that way since anyone's ever sold anything.
Well, Cardone, who I have followed literally
forever.
Since 2010. It seems like we treaded in the same waters.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks that eventually the salesman, as we know it, will go away. He believes that the sleazy sales guy.
I told Grant that, not directly, right? But I told Grant that almost 15 years ago in the automotive industry, challenged that when his big empire was really around the Grant Cardone sales process and training salespeople. And I said, I see you, dude. I know you're making your money. Like, you're brilliant. I know you're making your money, right?
He's a workhorse.
You and I both know this is bullshit. This is right for now. And you're training people because you know the audience, because Grant knows the goal. He knows how to reverse engineer the goal. And he built an entire empire in the automotive industry because he knew people would pay to hear those words in a powerful method from an alpha male, which he is. And I adore him for it. I went from really like wanting to vomit every time I heard him train anybody, and anybody regurgitating Cardone process. It just made me want to vomit. And I bet you if I ever had the chance to have an intelligent, authentic, humble communication with him, And we talked
Oh,
just
he
about
asks for influencers all the time.
I bet you he would tell me. I would bet money that he would tell me. I knew that I was churning out fucking garbage, but I also knew I was getting fucking paid.
Yeah.
He built a brand, he built an empire, and he served a need. Other people were going to do it. He was the best. And that I respect beyond comprehension, right? Because he taught me through that. That is kind of what I'm supposed to be doing for Second Team, is like, there are other people who are going to try to sell you agencies. There are other people who are going to try to sell you digital services. There are other people who are going to try to sell you solutions. And it's dog vomit. It's bullshit.
Well,
it's fucking
and this is
snake
something
oil.
that we touched on a little bit in our own conversations, because we're like the Kornheiser and Wilbon of digital marketing. We'll literally just talk forever. But you gave a good example of a company, an agency that was selling garbage, but was actually successful at it. Who was that? Who was it? Well, throw a few companies out there under the bus.
Well, so currently, I think the best target to hit is Grant Cardone's selling method for car sales. It was garbage. It was dog shit. It was absolute dog shit.
I live in Florida.
I'm gonna regret saying that. I know that. I know that. But I know that if Grant was honest about it, he would tell you what I was doing. My methodologies and my strategy in building my brand was epic, and he's right. What he was teaching salespeople and how to sell cars, was it successful? And did they sell more cars? Yes. But what was he really selling was confidence, right? I was trying to sell a process. And we both, in very different ways, in very different parallels, we both shaped and shifted that entire industry. What I learned from him is you have to be brave enough to acknowledge that you're the best and then go let everybody else know that they have the best, right? And that's dangerous. That's a dangerous thing. You have to be in a very healthy place emotionally to say, I am able to provide my clients access to the very best information and knowledge and strategies, and it's not bullshit, right? There's a difference. There are
what is the best? How do you grade? What's the barometer for the best in digital marketing? And I think that's something
that's a tough question. Let's finish the other question. To finish the other question, since the age of selling, the delightful customer experience has always been there. The more you delight your customer at the end of their journey, and the more you stay with them, right? We haven't used the term lifetime value for a long.
No, we haven't.
Right. So lifetime customer value. Lifetime customer value probably emerged in the 70s, definitely in the Reaganomics of 80s, but it really didn't become like a buzzword, a hashtagable word, until the last decade, right? And then so like delightful user experience and delightful customer journeys, things like that. They've always been there. I said this at the beginning of this whole entire recording. It all comes down to very simple principles and very difficult, disciplined execution, consistent execution.
Consistent, definitely key.
Consistent commitment to the main goal. As soon as you start getting into the bottlenecks and the weeds of siloed data and security and my company has now got this many people where I have to have attorneys and I have to have, I have to have individual department heads, and we need to be looking at, about unifying or having parity in our data sets. And now you start to get confused. Your job as the leader of the company, your job as the CEO is to be fired from every single position in the company other than the vision caster. And you should be getting the vision from two sources and two sources only. Your clients. So you need to be deeply invested. You need to be fucking invested in understanding your client, understanding your customer, right? Understanding new customers, understanding legacy customers, understanding opportunities for customers, understanding how does it align with your mission and your vision.
What do you think the best way to do that is?
Well, and then the second piece of that is you need to be aligned with your employees and your staff, right? That's your job. So you need to understand your culture goals and your culture vision is going to change as you acquire new and refined talent. Your focus needs to be replicable, and demonstrative success in their specified area, and still hunger and ability to grow beyond their current need set and their current skill set. That needs to be your number one primary indicator and your primary goal and target in hiring people, right? And then do they align with the vision and the direction of the company? Once you have majority of your staff are aligned with those two things, then you have two goals. Fire yourself from every single job in the company other than being the vision caster, other than being the leader, right? Who lets everybody know. You're not the navigator. You're giving the navigator their course so they can navigate. You're not steering the ship. You're giving the captain all of the tools and all the resources necessary to steer the ship. You're not the engine. You're giving the engine room all the tools all the way down through at any ship anomaly and example and analogy that we want to go down, right? So that part's simple. At the end of the day, if you are in tune with your customer and you are in tune with your staff, your North Star is what is the vision and principle and mission of this company. And aligning all
what's interesting is that we have, let's explain exactly what it is that second team actually sells.
Yeah.
Because we haven't even touched on that yet. We really haven't even touched what it is that our agency is going to offer small to medium sized businesses or larger businesses like the Jersey Mike's that we started to work with.
That's right. That's right.
Or larger scale businesses.
So what is
it that we offer? What is our offer?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is that we don't actually sell anything. We ask for an exchange of a certain level of uncomfortable investment. And in exchange for that, we give an audit of the business, and we spell out and we create a strategy and a discipline and a set of disciplines, and we are accountability coaches, right? So we have a very specific set of skills, a very specific set of skills that we utilize in order to provide the results that we're asking, that we provide these in exchange, right, for the expectation of our client, right? Our client expects growth. We absolutely give that growth.
We need to work on that.
I'm pulling up a document
that we need to revisit, or we can try again right now. It really doesn't matter. But what it is we're offering, you need to touch on the website design line.
But you need to let me say this part first.
Okay.
So you can re-ask it. Let me get our document up.
Okay.
Let me get our document up. So
I think it's important at this point, since we really haven't even touched on what it is that second team offers. We've discussed a lot about sales processes and best practices, but we haven't really touched on what it is what second team's offering is. So why don't we take a few minutes to let our clients, our viewers know what it is exactly that we're offering.
Yeah. So I want to do that. I want to talk about our offering, and then I want to talk about what are we selling, because we are not actually selling anything.
Okay.
So I want to talk about both of those things. So what we do provide, I think that we've defined very simply in 3 pillars. And I think those 3 pillars kind of encapsulate everything that would actually translate into digital agency, right? Into a digital strategy agency. And I think that that's a new term. Like, most people would call themselves either an analytics, a data science firm, or they would call themselves a marketing agency, or they would call themselves a web development firm, right? And that's really not what we are. We're digital strategy, and there are faculties and there are disciplines that all those things touch that encapsulate the overarching story of what digital strategy is. I think inside of the next 3 to 5 years, when people talk about agencies and people talk about digital strategy, we'll be able to just use those phrases interchangeably, and we won't be talking so much about UX designers or freelancers or e-commerce platforms or websites or Google Analytics or Meta dashboards. We'll talk about digital strategy because it really encapsulates all these things. What we've done is we've broken that down into 3 very, very simple and consumable ideas, right? And we call those pillars. The first pillar is platform. And platform could not be any simpler than anywhere that your customer, that our clients' customers are able to transact on the service or the offering or the product, which we would just use the word offering, right? So platform is anywhere that our client's customer is able to transact on our client's offering is a platform. So 20
examples.
So 20 years ago, that was a website. 25, 35 years ago, that was a brick and mortar, right? But now you have all these methods and all these arenas and all of these funnels, which is a buzzword again now, right? So you have all these funnels and lead magnets. You have all these areas where you want to meet your customer where they are. You want to meet, and that's an epiphanal type of a reference because you want to meet your client where they are. This comes from the old like pastor days of Adam, right? You want to meet your people where they are. I have a story to tell, and I have a gift to give, and I have a service to provide, but I don't know where they are. And I'm not sure where they're at in wanting to accept or receive or experience those things. So in transactional sales, I hate that word. In transactional business, we want to meet our client where they are. And sometimes that's 4 o'clock in the morning on Instagram. And sometimes that's, 8 o'clock in the morning on their drive into work on a podcast or just a regular radio show. And what we don't want is to just plant seeds. We want to give them CTAs. We want to give our customer a call to action. The call to action shouldn't be an idea. The call to action should be a call to fucking action. Do this thing that translates into you receive my offering and I receive your money. So
make a move. Make a move off the couch.
Make a move off the couch. Let's go.
Make a move.
You want a better diet. You want to look prettier.
Right.
You want to feel better about you.
What's a trigger?
You want this piece of clothing.
That's psychology.
You want this guitar, right? It's all psychology. But so that's one area that we investigate. That's one area that we audit, and that's one area that we perfect strategies around.
Right.
Right.
How well their business is doing. Where are they visible at? How are they reaching their clients? What presence?
Well, just specific to the pillar of platform, we're talking about.
Right. I understand.
What are you doing to offer transactional opportunities? What do those opportunities look like? How effective are those opportunities? How simplified? How unfrictional? That's not even a real word. I think there's a more fascinatingly dirty edging on potentially a pornography
how lubricated
word. How lubricated is that opportunity, right?
We're a PG-13.
No, we're not. I'm not.
Podcast,
anywhere.
by the way.
At best, I'm NC-17. At best. Fuck, man. If you're gonna do business with Adam,
right?
I mean, I'm not gonna intentionally offend you, but I literally unintentionally offended our chief marketing officer, who we all know is the best in the business and absolutely terrifying. And I accidentally offended her and had to very quickly grovel and didn't realize
groveling's not one of my strengths.
It's my strength. I'm good at it. I'm well practiced. Well practiced. Okay.
Why I went into a family business.
So that's platform. Well, brother, this is a family business because you're my brother.
That's true. That's true.
So platform is that, right? And what I think were the most exciting parts of my job in this space is to show our clients platform opportunities that they didn't consider, areas where they can engage their customers. And I don't just mean engage them. I mean literally put the opportunity to transact business in
I like
front of
the
them.
lemonade
don't-
analogy that you had. The
Which one?
lemonade stand. I mean,
Yeah, the
basically
lemonade stand.
anybody can relate to that.
Everybody can, right?
And
Yeah.
and you said
So
it.
platform,
best.
so platform is your lemonade stand. Platform is your lemonade stand.
Selling lemonade to everybody who wants lemonade and finding them when they're thirsty. When something along those lines.
That was exactly it.
I might have actually gotten it this
Make
time.
the best lemonade.
Make the best lemonade.
Best lemonade you know how to make.
I live on a golf course, so literally.
Right? Like make the best lemonade you can make. Have the best lemonade stand you can have. Put it in the best location you can, and make sure that you're selling it to customers who are thirsty and want lemonade.
Right.
And even if they don't want lemonade, convince them. Convince them
Right.
that they want lemonade because they're thirsty.
Right. Coke's not good for you.
Coke's not good for you.
On 90-degree day. Not good for you. Energy drinks,
Not good for you.
not good
Right?
for you.
What's water and lemon?
Well,
Let's
that's
not
another
do-
thing.
So
That's another thing that we were really good at and are really good at is exposing the competition. And that's another thing that we can offer.
we can
as
talk about that today.
Yeah,
I think that's a
that-
part of so that's a part of the audit,
whole
and that's a part that most businesses aren't doing a good job at. Like really
Yes.
legitimately, most businesses, the businesses that are fixated on their competition are doing the extreme opposite of the wrong thing. The businesses that are aware of their competition, I want those clients. I want them to know that they're there, but then I want to teach them the secrets of like, look, it's totally cool if like your girlfriend got stolen by some dude that is better, or your boyfriend got stolen by some woman that, whatever. Like it's okay to healthily examine and understand like how did that happen? It's more about you than it is about your competitor. It's more about you than it is about your competitor. But you do need to understand your competitor in order to, and all three of our pillars, that is actually a part of the exchange of what we do is we go in.
I don't see secret shopping at all anymore.
Nobody does secret shopping anymore.
Crazy.
Nobody does secret shopping anymore. Like you have to,
that was a big part of our strategy with secret shopping.
Right. Like think about this.
Not only are you gathering information, but you're wasting the other people's time.
Okay. So if you have a lead form as part of your business strategy today, which if you don't, guess what? One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to find and isolate very high targeted, high conversion opportunities for lead capture, for lead format capture. And this is where Sean, by the way, guys, this is where Sean really doesn't want to talk, but wants to bring it. I mean, this is where he absolutely shines is your prospecting pipeline, which isn't always all about emails and phone calls and text messages, but the theology, the theories and the concept and the best practices around once someone has toyed with your idea and is now chewing on that idea, what Sean brings to the table that is magical and gifted is the engagement cycle and really understanding how to nurture that customer, not to the point of the transaction, but for the lifetime and the generational brand value that buyers, consumers, your customers will pass on to their children and influence to their circle.
That goes back to what we were talking about, how we were fortunate to have the luxury of when we were discussing about how we had the opportunity to be able to try new things and experiment.
That's right.
Doing that over and over and over again.
Right.
We had access to huge databases.
Huge databases.
Where we were able to do a lot of internal marketing, millions and millions of clients. We were able to do a lot of, you call it A/B testing. I just call it throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. And
that's
then
A/B testing.
That's A/B
spaghetti
testing.
walls are A/B testing.
Basically. But
that's
where we were fortunate. Yeah. That was probably the most valuable experience I got is I got to play with huge databases to see what worked.
Yeah.
Before anybody really knew what worked with internal marketing.
That's
Businesses were so scared to touch their own databases because they were afraid of opt-outs.
Don't want to know.
You're also not you're not accessing.
Don't want to know the truth, man.
Right. People don't want to know the truth.
Forcing the idea down on the customer instead of change your fucking culture around understanding your customer.
Right. I remember I came up with a what was it? A marketing blast. They call them blasts.
This was
basically just shotgunning your entire database.
At GMC, you did this at GMC.
I did them everywhere I went. That was my best strength, was internal marketing, and like you said, lifetime value. It was a debate the rebate email. Titles of emails are probably the most important.
Sure.
Because it gets you to open the email. I don't know how many emails I get that I never look at. And it's interesting that businesses aren't smart enough to change the emails that they're sending. Like every email I get from Sprint, it's the same email I get from them every time they send me an email.
The larger the company, the lower quality the connection to your last interaction with that client, with that company. So here's where email marketing.
They're terrified of losing customers in their database, but if they're not going to get anything from them, we found out that it's not worth having. It's great to say I have customers in your database, but if you're not, if you're not going, mining was the word. If you're not going to mine your own database and get anything from it, then it's just you're just stroking your ego.
Same as on social media. If you're not doing anything with that, if you're not converting it, if it's just stroking your ego, you have a hobby, you don't have a business.
Right.
You also are probably a narcissist.
Plenty of those on social media, for sure.
And that's fine. So you just led me right into the next platform. I mean, the next pillar, right? So the next pillar is people. Next pillar is people. And why do we call this pillar people? Because marketing is one tiny, small aspect. Advertising is one small, tiny aspect, right? Branding is a very important aspect. And branding is one of the things that a clever logo and nice colors and a good font and a good artist is not the same as branding. Branding is storytelling. Branding is my red glasses is an aspect of my branding. My hair and my smoking and my drinking on camera is an aspect of my branding. I'm not Gary Vee. Gary Vee is Gary Vee. And Gary Vee does Gary Vee.
I don't think he would even be bold enough to smoke on camera.
Nobody is probably smart enough, dumb enough to smoke on camera anymore because you lose an entire audience because of it. Fuck that audience. You're going to come back. You'll be all right. You'll come back. My smoking is not the reason your business is not growing. My smoking is the reason.
Story, Tavistock Group, probably one of the largest real estate groups in Windermere, Florida. When I first came down here and I was getting into the real estate game, I wanted to feel everyone out. I really had no interest in working for these companies.
You didn't. I remember this. Yeah.
I wanted to find out what they were all about. I went on 4 different interviews with Tavistock. And when I finally met with Mark Hayes, who is their CEO, he was the CEO at Islesworth. And I don't know if anybody knows about Islesworth, but if you've ever seen the famous Tiger Woods episode where literally his wife came out bashing his car with a golf club after he got caught cheating.
Was at Islesworth.
That was at Islesworth. You want Ken Griffey Jr.'s house? That was at Islesworth. You want Shaquille O'Neal's house? That's at Islesworth. So I was thinking about, their top agent was Jolie Bettesini. She literally does more volume because she sells only luxury real estate than any other agent in all of Central Orlando.
Yeah, legacy.
And absolute legacy. Tiny little house. Literally, it was this brick house. It looked like a slum, but what it was a studio.
Oh wow!
And it had green, the green backgrounds, and hundreds of cameras everywhere, and probably 10 of the geekiest kids I've ever seen in my life sitting at this one table working on their marketing strategy. And I go in for the interview, and he's with his 2 nephews, and he asked me. This was on the 4th interview, by the way.
This is with Mark.
And he asked me, he said, "What is your biggest flaw?" He said, if you have one character trait that you would like to change, what would it be? And I said, I smoke cigarettes. Because to me, that was a flaw in my character. Yeah. I know that it's not good for me. I was still doing it. And he was like, I've never heard that answer before. He was like, I'm surprised that you connected to. And he actually, he's a huge humanitarian. He helped build the I don't know if it's Advent Health, but he raised like $30 million to build a new hospital.
I think it was Advent Health.
And his mother she died from, I think, lung cancer.
Yeah.
And he can't be around smoke. He cannot be around anybody who's smoking cigarettes. And that was where me and him really, that was the last conversation that we had. And at that point, I realized how important perceptions are. That it was nothing about my talent. It was nothing. It was not. You can't sell Isleworth real estate and smoke cigarettes out front of it. You can't do that.
Right.
I didn't connect the two. I thought that it didn't matter what I did as long as how good I was at my business.
Jimbo Smith, right? Recent quote. I think it's a legacy quote of his. At the top echelon, professional level of sports, talent should be the last resource you rely on.
He said something, you know what? Mark said something to me exactly like that. He said, I can teach talent, but I can't teach
everything.
It was something else. He was like, I know you're talented. I get that from your resume. Talent, I'm not worried about it. I can teach talent. What I can't teach is
telling me this
integrity. It was like integrity or something along that line. He said, those are the kind of people that I look for. I can't teach integrity. I can teach talent. And
that's absolutely right.
It wasn't a criticism. This and the smoking story have nothing to do with each other.
No.
But I realized at that point that my talent was not the most important. It didn't define me. It wasn't the most important part of my personality. It was the sincerity. It was the fact that I took so much care in the way that I approached my business and the way that I wanted all of my salespeople to eat. I wanted all of my owners to be happy with my work.
There you go.
I wanted everyone who was in my aura, who was in my general vicinity, to raise their game, to raise their lifestyle. And that was the part that he liked the most. Yeah. I actually saw him in a Best Buy about 6 months after that.
Did you really?
I did. I was buying a new phone. I saw him at Best Buy, and I asked him, I said, I went on 4 interviews with you. Yeah. And after I met you, we didn't talk again. I said, I don't really normally have interviews like that. What happened? He said, why didn't you call Julie? I said, because after I told you that I smoke cigarettes, I thought that meant that I had struck a negative chord. Because he ended up getting kind of like, he thought about his mom, and he kind of looked down.
Yeah, you felt that you read the body language because you know how to read.
This guy's a giant to me. I mean, he is a
absolutely epic, world class.
He's a pioneer in Central Orlando. Yeah. Anybody does anything in Central Orlando with real estate, Marquez knows about it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I saw this kind of disappointed look on his face. And I didn't really want to strike that chord with him again. Like, I felt like, sometimes when you have a relationship with somebody, sometimes it's best maybe just not to explore that anymore. But he was like, why didn't you call Julie? I said, because, I felt like, I made you a little upset when you had to bring up, your mom.
I love this.
And he was like, I want you to call her. I never, because I was already working with Hilton at the time.
Yeah. So you didn't.
I didn't ended up going and exploring that any further because, like I said, that wasn't really the main goal. But working with the Robert Slacks, I talked to their owner, Keller Williams, Premier Properties. I talked with all the big giants down here because when I got down there, they wanted me to do the same thing that I did for automotive up north. They wanted me to do the same thing for real estate down here. And
you got to put that story in your book.
And I've been told I need to write a book for years.
I keep telling
there's a lot of things in there.
You keep telling me to get on camera, and I keep telling you to write a book on sales.
Because there's a lot of stuff on here I don't know if I want the public to know. I don't know if I want people to know that Marquez story. I don't know if I want people to know.
They're going to know it now.
The conflict that I may have had with certain 10Xers. I don't necessarily want.
You and Grant love each other. Grant and his wife love you. And you love both of them, and so there is no conflict with any 10Xers.
I'll tell you, I had a peace offering with him. His daughter said that on her Instagram that she was trying to get an iPhone watch. Now, I know that Grant and Elena probably may not have even liked the fact that I did it, because no one's going to buy their daughter an iPhone watch but them, because that's just the type of people.
Definitely shouldn't be.
But I went to Apple.
Shouldn't be an adult man.
This is when I just bought a house. I really didn't have the extra $500 to spend on a watch. It was right around Christmas time, I think. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to send it. And I bought a card.
I love this about you.
I bought the watch, and I bought a card.
Yeah.
And it was a superhero card, because I used to like making memes, and I make memes a little bit different. My memes tell stories. And maybe
they work. They're weird, but they work.
They worked on my LinkedIn page for a while until they got shut down for copyright. But I told stories, and one of them I told it was a superhero themed meme that I made, and it had Grant in it, and he was wearing a Superman costume, and basically it was me as Batman and him as Superman. So I went and I got the watch.
Such a nerd.
And I sent a superhero card.
Love it.
Didn't sign it with my name.
Yeah. Yep.
So I didn't want them to know who it came from.
Yep.
Unless they were able to put 2 and 2 together. And eventually I ended up messaging Elena, and I talked with her a little bit on Instagram.
Yeah. You guys have
I talked to her a little bit. This was years ago. I talked to her a little bit.
Yep.
And until like 4 o'clock in the morning. To this day, I don't know whether it seemed like it was her. But I don't know if Elena Carter would be up till 4:30 in the morning talking to another man. But either way, I finally told her, I said, Did you get the watch? And she said, What do you mean, did I get the watch? And then it was like 1 or 2 days later, I saw Cardone sitting in a jacuzzi, and he was sitting like this, and he had his watch up like this.
Ah!
With a picture of Sabrina, I think it was I get them to Scarlet. It was with a picture of her on it. He was sitting in a jacuzzi, and his watch like this.
And
so
how has he always communicated with you? He's
always cryptic. That's how all the big boys talk. They all talk cryptic, and they don't like when you talk.
And that's because we're
not tell people that they talk cryptic. And I don't know why they talk cryptic. I've never understood. We were talking about that last night. I don't understand why they talk cryptic.
Grant's waiting for you to get to that level that he sees in you and expects in you. And then he'll reach out and have.
Well, we have a property management business, and he owns more multifamily property than anybody in Florida. Now, I think he wants my grandmother and my mom more, and my uncle, maybe even more than he wants me, because they're Mensa society, smart when it comes to that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know that. They're an
but
epic,
the first message I sent,
family.
He had a podcast. It was one of the first ones he had. This is when he was raising money initially. This can't go on the recording. But he was raising money overseas, because back then you couldn't crowdfund.
Oh yeah, no.
Media.
I know the exact story. If you don't want it on recording, don't tell me.
I don't want that on recording.
We have 15 minutes left.
He was like in the Caribbean.
You told me the whole thing. We got 15 minutes left, and I've got 2 pillars to get to.
All right, so let's go to but either way, I messaged her and I said, Who's managing your properties? And all she did was like it. She didn't say anything. She just liked it. I have no idea who manages all their multifamily.
Sarloos and I talked last night. He does all of his own marketing by himself as the CEO of Sarloos and Sons, right?
Yeah.
Told him last night, just a fanboy, man, with a company that can help. I love your shit. I feel like a 17-year-old loving all my punk bands that I grew up wanting to see make it, right? And like, what did he do? Like the message. It's planting seeds. And we're going to teach our clients how to do the same things. Right?
I went to his office when it wasn't there.
I know that story.
I could talk about.
I know you can. So
long time.
But so people, right? So people.
Yeah.
So we call it people because there's so much that is actually intertwined in what most people globalize as a thought of marketing. And when you do that, if you do that and you have an internal marketing team, I promise you this, as a business owner, your people might love you, but they hate their fucking job. And what you've got them in is a crux. You've got them sandwiched in between 2 things they love, doing shit they hate. And a big part of the reason that your results are lacking is because they are producing results tinged with a hint, if not more than a hint, of resentment towards you, because they're good at this thing and they love doing this thing and they love you and they believe in your company, and you are asking them to do an impossible job because you're a fucking asshole. And that's the true story. Like, you don't understand marketing at 2023 levels, but you rely on it, but you're fucked up in other ways monetarily as a company, as a business, and you're putting pressure on probably not just your marketing team, probably other teams. And you don't understand right now that your people love you and they're loyal to you and you're lucky for that. And they love what they do because they're talented and gifted at it. And they want to do what they love in exchange for being able to provide for their family. And you are fucking them. And you need to unfuck yourself by starting off with unfucking them. And if you don't understand unfuck yourself, go look up the book, go buy it, go listen to it. You're smart enough of a human being. You own a fucking company. You can go read this book in 2 days and you can understand the principle of it and start fixing those pieces, even without.
How does second team help with the people pillar?
Without hiring us. I was just going to say, you can do all that without hiring us. But then what you do is this: if you have internal anything that you think you lump into marketing, you're already on the right track. We're going to help you to solidify those resources and to reinvigorate those resources. And we're going to help you to give them passion back, because they're passion, they're artists, they're creators at the end of the day. And if they're anyone that's working in marketing, anyone that's working in the people space, when I say people as a platform, as a pillar. People as a pillar is everything that has to do with, okay, let's say we've solved the platform pillar. We've solved the platform pillar. We've created all the strategies around getting opportunities for transactions to your customers. Well, now we have to get your customers. We have to get those opportunities in front of your customers. We have to identify new customers. We have to identify customers we didn't even know were opportunities for customers. We have to understand our competitors' customers. We have to understand that market share, that market penetration. We have to understand overlap of other services and other products that actually solve the same thing. This is the conflict and conversation between, if I get my prescriptions at Publix, I'm probably going to buy my groceries at Publix. But if I'm more embedded and loyal to CVS, I'm going to buy other products that CVS sells. This is called ancillary market share, right? So we have to understand that landscape in order to really build the strategy around how do we hyper target your people. And hyper targeting your people is one part of it, but then what we want to do is storytell. We want to create a connection to our people and ourselves in order to have a relationship with them that ultimately turns into a transactional agreement, right? We did that in the car business. We figured out how to literally fix a 65-year impressionist problem. You and I solved that along with several thousands of other really intelligent people who we are deeply connected to and love and adore and see them doing incredible things in the space. Intentional people strategy needs to be the new 3 words that are used to talk about marketing, advertising, and influencing. And that's what we do, is we can go in and we can get that to a surgical level of being able to identify all of the people opportunities and align our branding and our messaging and our strategy, and our statements and our blogging and our social media and our influencing and our affiliations and our, like, being integrated into Amazon is not just a platform experience. It's also a people experience. Right. There's a piece that Amazon wants to make really challenging, but there's a piece of selling your product on Amazon, even selling your service, your book, your audiobook. Amazon sells so much today, right? That, like, leveraging that advantage, leveraging that platform opens a door and a channel to being able to really bring and recapture and bring in a loyal audience that we can turn into our actual people.
Now, what I think that we've found with certain companies is we're not. It doesn't work if you sit on the sidelines. You have to be active, because no one knows your business, your product, your story better than you. Better than the business owner.
Better than you.
So
you taught me that.
you can't just, okay, I'm hiring second team consulting. Just go do all my people. We can handle a lot of the platform pillar, but the people pillar, certainly the business has to be involved in that. Now, if you don't want us to be a part of that, that's up to you.
No,
you're not going to get the best results.
We're not going to hire you. We'll fire you.
Yeah, most likely. Because you're not going to get the results.
It's a waste of our time. That's a waste of our time. That goes into the second thing, and then it actually helps wrap up the last piece of this, which is we don't sell anything. We actually aren't selling anything. There's a cost to our access, but I'll explain that in a second. So the last piece of this,
build the foundation. We build your brick and mortar online.
Well,
we're not in the store with you.
We can also
do that. Tell us what's going on in the store. You got to give us feedback. You got to let us know what's customer feedback.
It's so much of what we talked about with the dealership problems, right? Like we changed the culture, but the culture didn't change, and it's only now. It's only now that it's really starting to. If you look at posts on LinkedIn and you look at the general managers and you look at the store owners and you look at the generational owners and you look at the salespeople and you look at I think the most important is you look at the salespeople. You look at the language that salespeople use today, and you look at the tactics and the strategies that salespeople use today, that we were begging, doing it for them and giving them credit for it 15 years ago. They do it now as the best practice standard because we fucking knew. We just already knew, right? So today in this landscape,
it was honesty. A lot of it was honesty.
A lot of
it was just telling the customer the straightforward truth right from the beginning, and it gave them a total different experience right from the beginning.
Most of it is
why is your car more expensive? It's not more expensive.
Okay.
When you go to that dealership, you're going to pay more. When you go to CarMax, your interest rate is going to be 3-4 points higher.
7 minutes.
They're not going to accept
7 minutes.
Okay.
So the last platform is performance. And this is probably the most overlooked and the most important, right? So I talked about the Procter & Gamble triangle earlier. And the thing about it is, like, you can reverse engineer the Procter & Gamble. You can take data and reverse engineer to dreams. It's very difficult to start with a dream, turn that into thesis, practice and scientifically try those theories, and then extrapolate the data and call it facts. It's much easier to extrapolate facts and data, reverse engineer that to theories, and quickly build dreams on top of that. Probably our most overlooked and probably our most essential and probably our most expensive is of the pillars is performance. And performance is literally analytics as a service. Yes, that's right. We sell ass. And we're not embarrassed about it. And you need to be buying.
Yeah, you've employed this with me for years.
So many times.
I was a big gut instinct person, and right? I had a lot of success doing that.
So great, but be a guttural leader. Be a guttural leader.
Right, but you can't scale doing that.
You can't scale doing that, and you're going to bloat, and you're going to overspend because you're not using data to reverse engineer. So be a guttural leader, but put in the disciplines of data. And the reason that most people overlook it is because they don't want to be honest. Most people don't want to actually run their business from a standpoint of being honest with themselves. Most of us don't want to actually live our lives being 100% transparent.
What are some of the ingredients of that secret sauce in terms of extracting data?
Bro, good data. I can boil it down to one thing: good data in, good data out. Shit data in, shit data out. And this goes all the way back to what you were talking about of sequential cultural buy-in. And it all stems to the very first thing I said tonight, which was you have to have a goal. That goal needs to be a transactional experience, but a long after the transaction based experience. It has to be a goal of a joyful journey, a joyful experience for the customer.
Yeah, give me details. Give me an example of how you use data extraction in one of the businesses that you've worked with.
I mean, so we're probably going to have to do that into another segment. What it comes down to is, like, we can stand up Facebook and we can stand up Instagram. We can stand up TikTok and we can stand up Google My Business. And we can stand up SEO. We can stand up your website. We can stand all those things up, and we can put in all of the Power BI and and GT metrics. We can put in all of the Lighthouse. We can put in all of the known A/B testing tools. We can put in all of the data extraction, the conversion analysis, the GA4s. We can put all those things together and we can centralize them into singular points of data. And then we can build data science using Python and other algorithmic intentions and theories. And we can use our own AI that we've built, and we can actually create actionable game plans off of the data that's happening. And this can be as simple as simple things as this language versus this language created 4.5% higher conversion to the next point of the funnel flow. And that's actionable data. That's actionable, right? So so we talk about take 3 cents off of the cost of a product and test that against adding 7 cents to the cost of the product on other markets, right? Not your website, on other market channels. We call that a persistent feedback loop. And we look at which one is converting at the highest rate. And then we look at the values. If it's Amazon, it's probably because they're a Prime customer. So the Prime customer equals free and fast delivery. And you are sending your products FBA as opposed to warehousing yourself and then self-fulfilling. And those data sets tell us that 7 cents higher, 10 cents, 27 cents, $4.50 higher, $35 higher on Amazon is capturing an Amazon audience at X percentage of conversion and is actually
worth it.
It's actually increased your bottom line for a reason. And now we got to cohesively, we've got to look at that whole entire customer journey. We don't know anything about that Amazon customer. So we have to put certain methodologies and certain things into practice of the packaging that goes to FBA. By the way, if you're doing Amazon and not doing FBA, you're a fucking moron. Anyone who's told you that you should be doing Amazon and not doing FBA, they're a moron. And you've wasted money spending time.
What is FBA?
Fulfilled by Amazon. Putting your products in packaging with Amazon standards at Amazon warehouses and renting that warehouse space and letting them do all the supply chain fulfillment.
And you also are an expert in fulfillment and distribution.
I built Overstock's automotive pipeline. tripled their entire SKU inventory by myself. Broke their internal system. So, yeah. They disbanded the department because their internal infrastructure couldn't handle, and then they rebuilt it again.
All right, I guess that's a hard stop.
That's a hard stop, my brother. That was some pretty good shit.
We'll see. You'll be able to tell.
I'll be watching this tonight. I'll be watching this one tonight. All right, I literally got to go.
All right.
I'll talk to you as soon as I'm done with my call.
Later.